Hi, I'm Caroline Mitchell, canine behaviourist at Good Doggy. So today I'm going to talk about something that I don't advise people to do whenever they are doing reactive training with their dog. People often try to get their triggered dog to sit as a way of trying to take some kind of control. It's an alternative for barking and lunging all over the place, and it gives you something to reward. So on the surface of it all, it feels like a really good plan, and it's actually something that most people will try first, just to see if they can change your dog's choices. Except that for most people, this doesn't work. And actually, it's one of the things that people talk about as being the most frustrating element of reactive dog training is that you're trying to get your dog to do something now really, really well. It's probably the first trick you ever taught your dog, or it was the first trick they learned if you weren't there with them as a puppy. And they are so good at it. They've practiced it so much. And now all of a sudden, they can't do it at all. They have no idea what's going on and they're not listening at all. And this is really, really, really frustrating. And really, that's a huge part of why I don't ask a dog to sit when they become triggered. Because of that frustration, it comes across to everybody. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about why it doesn't work. And actually what you could do instead. And when you can do it, because it's not entirely a bad plan. There are times when asking your dog to sit is going to be just the perfect thing and exactly what you need to do. So let's talk about the reactive brain. So when your dog gets triggered by something in their environment, they will be either under or over threshold. Under threshold is that is a calm dog that is listening, their brain is switched on, and they are paying attention to you. There will come a time though when you get close enough to the thing that's triggered them that they will go over threshold. I did a video which talks more about this, so look at that if you're interested in learning what that means and how it works. But basically over threshold means the brain has now been switched off. Your dog is now in fight or flight mode. They are full of adrenaline and all of their decisions now are based on survival. They're not based on anything else. So they're not listening. Their environment has become very shut. They are really just focused on the thing that has triggered them, and that's all they can see and all they can hear and all they are responding to at that time. And a dog can be over threshold for any emotion. You know, you can become overwhelmed by joy, anger, fear. So in fear, that's most reactive dogs will be responding to a situation with fear. They are in survival mode. So as I said, fast decisions, mainly based on either trying to make the scary thing go away themselves, or they're preparing to fight it. And our modern dogs today have probably quickly learnt that flight is not an option, either because whenever they encounter their trigger, they are trapped in some way. Maybe they are on a lead, or they're in their dog crate, or they're in a car, or something like that, which removes the option for flight. Often as well, when they're puppies, if we see something that they're afraid of, our instinct is to show them that it's not scary. So rather than taking them away, we bring them closer to the item. We want to show them it's okay. If it's a dog, we're trying to pet the dog and trying to encourage them that we're not scared of the dog. But actually all we've done is taught them that flight is not an option for them. So they quickly learn for one way or the other that not to bother with flight, fight is the option. So that's what that over threshold behavior looks like, and that's why it becomes very growly, it becomes lunging, barking, that kind of thing. Just quickly, if a dog becomes over threshold through joy, then we'll see them jumping around, grabbing at sleeves, trousers, and that kind of thing. If a dog is over threshold through loneliness, so this is a dog with separation anxiety, they might be biting at their crate, biting at themselves, crying a lot, that kind of stuff. So that's what over threshold looks like. All emotions can end becoming over threshold, and if they get too out of control, all of those emotions can then move on and become aggression too. So aggression is not a behavior itself, it's an emotional response when that has become out of control, but more about that on another day. Anyway, the important thing is here is that the reactive brain is not making considered decisions. It has no room in the brain for thinking. It's become very, very blinkered. Our brains can only cope with so much. So the more that is dedicated to responding to the trigger, the less there is left to respond to you. So if you're very, very far away from a trigger, then you might be able to ask your dog to sit. And because it's quite far away, they are only really thinking about it a tiny bit, but really most of what they're thinking about is you. So they might respond, but the closer you get, the more of their brain becomes dedicated and put towards the trigger, less of it is available to you, and which is why the closer you get, the more triggered they get, the more over threshold they get, the less likely they are to respond to something that they know, because they are really only considering what's happening in front of them and not listening to you. So once your dog has been triggered and they're over threshold, as I say, his brain is dealing with an overwhelming amount of emotion. He is now in emergency mode, he is in survival mode, he is not listening to you, he is not looking at you, he is not looking around him, he is not thinking about his environment, and he's certainly not trying to respond to commands that you're giving him. He's not listening to you, he's not hearing that cue, he's not seeing the treat that's in front of him. His entire brain will become engaged with the trigger. Even if he can hear you and he is trying to respond, you will notice that he's not really doing it properly. He might sort of hop a little bit when he's trying to sit. His bum might just barely touch the floor. He might just kind of crouch a bit and give you a little bit of a half-hearted attempt, perhaps. But he is really not engaged with you at all, and anything you're doing really is just a waste of time. I tried to say to people, imagine that you are just trying to do some simple maths while you're being chased by a lion. Or you're trying to park your car in a small space and the kids are asking you questions. We see this happening to people on game shows as well. People on game shows give dumb answers to questions just because they're all under pressure and overwhelmed at that moment. Any kind of pressure that you put on a person can put them into that fight or flight mode, and it changes how they respond to things. It changes how much of the world they take in, how much of the information they take in, and how much of it they can give back. So that person in that quiz show that's given the dumb answer has maybe only really been able to focus on one or two elements of that question and has given an answer that feels like it would work for those elements. They haven't considered the whole question. They've missed really important parts of that question. That's not because they're stupid, it's just because they became over threshold. And that's a really low level version of that. If you were being followed home and you were trying to put your key into the door to open the front door, or even if you just need a pee and you're trying to unlock your own front door, simple tasks are not simple when you are under small amounts of pressure. So imagine how your dog is feeling whenever he is under huge pressure, because he literally is, in his mind, fighting for his life. He is in proper full-on survival mode. So putting that key in the door was really, really hard for you when you just needed a pee. Imagine actually that you were genuinely in a survival situation. Your brain would be doing very different things. And if you're interested in that, check out the quiz on my blog, because there's a quiz there that shows you just how easy it is when you're under even as tiniest amount of pressure to get things wrong and misinformation, and you'll have a bit more sympathy maybe with the person on the quiz tonight on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, who gets a really dumb answer to a question. So we know that when you're asking a dog that has been triggered, who is over threshold, to do something simple, it is frustrating. He either won't do it or he might try and fail. That's making you stressed out because he isn't doing something that he knows well. You now start to blame yourself, him, the training. He's more anxious now because he knows how to sit, but now he can't. Just the same as that person who's trying to put their key in the door. You know how to put your key in the door. You can do it. If you could just get it in there, you could get in the house and you can get to the bathroom. So that's the frustration. If he's at a low level of being over threshold, then that's where he's at. If he's gone too high, he's not caring. But for you, the anxiety is starting to kick in because something simple is not happening that should be. So when can you ask your dog to sit? Because there are some times that I do ask a dog to sit. In fact, it is a really, really useful way of measuring how your dog is doing in their training, where their mind is at that time. So you could try and do it after a dog or the trigger, whatever your dog's trigger is, once they've passed and he's calming down. Before you move on from a situation, if he has become triggered, it's really good to wait until he has completely settled, and asking him to sit will really help you understand where he's at and how settled he is, because a lot of dogs can look quite settled. They can maybe look quite calm, maybe they're licking their lips, that kind of stuff, but actually they're just fizzing away on the inside. So this is a really, really good way to check if they have completely settled again before you move on. So this can help you make sure that this experience doesn't impact the next experience as well. We know that when a dog has been triggered and has become anxious, then that anxiety will stack. So the next time he sees something that's going to trigger him, then he's not starting from a calm place. He's already triggered. He's already really anxious. So he's starting already in that place where if you add more anxiety to that, so the reactions are going to get bigger, it's going to take longer to calm down. So this is a really, really good way of letting you know whether you're ready to go, or if you could just sit for a little bit longer just to see if they will calm down just a bit more, so that you don't have that impact going forward. But ideally, you'll want to avoid your dog getting triggered in the first place. So a better time is before he gets overwhelmed. So when you spot your dog's trigger far, far away in the distance, and he's seen it too, but it's still far enough away that enough of his brain is still thinking and processing and listening to you, this is a good distance to keep your dog at your very early stages of training. This is the sweet spot where the dog knows where his trigger is, but he's okay. He hasn't gone into fight or flight mode. Emergency mode has not been triggered. He is not overwhelmed with excitement or fear, and he will be able to sit easily. He knows his trigger is there, but he's still able to do what you've asked him to do. He will get his reward. He will feel good about what he's done. And now the original plan that you had was to get your dog to sit. This has now been successful. You'll have to experiment with the distance that you can be from your dog's trigger, and also remember that not all triggers are created equal. So for example, if your dog is triggered by people in the park, a person that's walking quite slow and walking away from your dog will be far easier for him to ignore than somebody who is jogging towards your dog, maybe looking right at him. So we'll know that in a situation where somebody's running at your dog, you'll need to be much further away in order to find that sweet spot where he still can sit, but knowing his trigger is present at the same time. But that's just about experimenting. Go out there and see what your dog's trigger is and see if you can figure out what the different variations are and what the distance is good for your dog. I always say to people though, if you're not sure, don't be a hero, just the more distance the better. As long as he knows it's there, then you are still winning. Your training will still be effective. If he's not coping though, you're getting too close. So step back, maintain a better distance, and do this in kind of whatever way makes sense. If the other dog isn't moving, then you can stand still and just practice your tricks in the distance. If they are moving, then you might want to move your position as well so that you maintain that nice distance away from them. Maybe you want to follow them at that long distance, or maybe you're walking away, or maybe you're doing a semicircle around them. Whatever it takes to not get any closer so you can maintain that sweet spot where your dog is aware of his trigger, but also listening to you really, really well. Practice his tricks at those distances, and once he starts to have really good experiences at those distances, you will be able to work on reducing the distance later. But to start with, that is how I would go about using a sit in reactive training. Don't wait until he's already been triggered, because that is just a frustrating experience for everybody and it's not going to work. Instead, try it either before, better, or after. Hopefully that's been helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you again soon. Take care for now. Bye-bye.